to organize concerts and things in Lima. So I would travel back to Lima, and that's when Jen started to come with me. And one of the projects that I invited her is Espacios y Canales. So the idea was to record improvisation sessions with nature and with spaces that are in the limit of human-made sounds and non-human-made sounds. So in that album, you can hear our improvisations very deep in the forest, super early in the morning, with all the birds.
The resulting piece became a soundscape of the harmonies of our humanity and then the sound world of the humanity around us, or the nature around us. And then even one of them is in the context of today, you might call it a site-specific performance. We were basically at a port area of the Amazon. So there's lots of hustle and bustle, and there's a lot of guys with boats that are just running like a taxi service across the river. So what I remember in between, holding a long F sharp or something, was this man, this sound of his voice saying, Padre Cocha, Padre Cocha. And what did that mean, Padre Cocha?
Literally, it means father and lake. So it is a very interesting figure because it's male and female, because the lakes are considered female. No, so it is very beautiful name, but in that context is the name of a port of another town.
You kind of were nurtured in this sort of sensibility of playing sound in specific environments. So you embodied this Peruvian, tradition of historically using a space as part of the musical experience. One time you told me 90% of your composition is production. So you're reproducing an environmental experience that includes sound. It's oriented around sound, but also lighting. And so the attendee or the listener is inside the world of your composition.
I think something very important is to have very clear the poetic image, no, like which is the actual universe of the soundscape I want to reproduce. That's something that sometimes takes the longest time, no, to be accurate with that subjective space. And then once I find it, I try to use technological tools to help me reproduce that imaginary. I like to make experiences that help people to enter to themselves in a very safe way, no, like in a ceremony. So Mayu has three movements. The first one is called apego. Apego is in Spanish is like when you can't release something, that you are attached, and then comes thorny branches, no, like the catharsis. Catharsis always helps us to travel inside and to navigate our inner world. The third one didn't have like a particular name, but it is like I recorded Jennifer, the second movement, and then I reversed the piece and I brought a couple octaves down, and I used that as the electronic bass. I wanted this upside down version to be totally out of the grid of time.
That was one of those things where our friendship also intertwined with our collegial relationship, where I wanted to be with people who were special to me on the anniversary of my mother's death, and Pauchi's like on the top list of that. So we went to the Bronx Botanical Gardens, both being admirers of Frida Kahlo, the essence of her artistry and her spirit. We ended up in front of the picture where she's being embraced or captured by branches. And shortly after, Pauchi wrote a piece that sounded like what you might imagine are those branches sort of crackling around here, but manifested on paper was 2 pages, all 30-second notes, really fast, off the string, and she called it Thorny Branches.
We were meant to be friends, no? And it's more like collaboration musically is only the result, is the collaboration in life, no? I think something that also we share a lot is our love to traditional music. We both love traditional music. Music that transcended time, no? And that have something special that made it last, no? It communicates culture and belief systems. For her, it's very easy to understand when I write a piece. When she reads a piece, it's like she knows exactly the temperament. She's an amazing classical musician, but also she has this very beautiful care about traditional music. She navigates between those two worlds with such a ease.
So my piece for her production of Modu was called Kapalabhati, which is a Sanskrit word for shining skull, or sometimes in English people will say fire breathing. It's a constant exhalation. The idea of my season is the one where you see this turnaround, this maybe it's a storm, something is about to happen. And I described it later to her and to the musicians that would share the stage with me, kind of a tiny orchestra. So it's supposed to be like the arrow that goes shooting out into that abyss. The second title actually of Modu is Inevitable, the inevitable. So it's like this inevitable thing is going to happen.
Jen's piece was like wow, like so explosive, and it was so beautiful because right before her section was a very introspective section with the Buto dancer, and then Jennifer came to wow, break the space and lit up the light and the fire at the concert hall. So it was every night we performed, it was so beautiful. I was because I am so much used to site specific performances. I came up with the idea of the speaker dress because one day a very cool videographer, Vincent Moon, he came to Peru, and one friend told me, oh, he has to make a video from you performing somewhere. And I was like, oh, okay, let's do it. So they arranged a trip to Pachacamac, which is a temple, clay temple in South Lima. And I didn't think very well, you know, I just was like, putting things together. Okay, I bring my violin, I bring my effects. But of course, we arrived at the temple and there was no electricity. No, so I was like, oh my god, I brought all these machines, and so at the end I had to perform this solo Andean violin tune that I made up that day, walking throughout the temple. No? So when I went back to Mills after my holidays, I was like, no, I need to solve this, no? And then one day I was at my electronic arts class, and I was doing like the test with the little speakers, and then I was like, like 1 and 2, and then I just found many like all around, and I just put them all together on the table, and I was like, this looks cool, no? And then I started to solder a blur, and I end up with the first speaker dress.
You can play anywhere amplified and move around, and no one will have a problem hearing you. And I bet some of that comes from your background, you know, playing for like a ceremony where you're walking around and you're offering sound to people to heal their physical ailments, to heal their energetic ailments, but you're walking through the room, visiting a person, playing to their knees, playing to their head, playing to their feet. Maybe they're facing the other way because it's very important where those vibrations are going. So then you took it to the next level of technology and also global. You know, I think it's a beautiful merge of the growth you went through, whether you think of it as your spiritual growth or studying the traditions of spirituality in Peru, and then not making it into a product, but building it into something that can offer music in any setting.
I think this is a fun story to tell from both angles. So want to take it away first?
Yeah, I was having an existential crisis because I did not want to play an orchestra anymore, but I did not know other options. And a really close friend of mine introduced me to this ensemble, and there was a bassoonist. So then I went on your website and I heard Edgar's piece, Undefined, and I was like, I can do this. Like all the pieces on the album, I was like, this one I can do. So, and then I hit Rebekah up and she gave me a lesson and it was really intense, but we made it through and I really loved her. And then we're here. So a lot has happened in between there, but
this was back in 2017, I believe.
Yeah.
When you were an undergrad at Peabody. And I remember getting an email out of the blue saying that David Smook from Peabody had recommended you reach out to me, or maybe in my album when you were looking for different repertoire. And first of all, I'm always so psyched when people reach out to me out of the blue. I'm like, oh, wow, you were interested in this rep and you know who I am and think it's kind of cool. Awesome. And I was like, yes, I thought it was a really exciting opportunity to connect with someone like-minded, and really enjoyed working on that piece with you. And then that directly led to programming another piece for my second album, Metafagoce, on your final recital at Peabody.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Which I played in the bassoon chorus for.
Yes. Yes. But before that, I played on your concert of Metafagoce.
Right.
Yeah.
Abrams Art Center.
Yeah.
In 2016 in the spring.
Yeah.
So Metafagoce is a piece written by Felipe Lara for 7 bassoons, spatialized. And it's really written for 1 solo part and 6 spatialized bassoons, including contrabassoon. It's a really amazing piece, and it's sort of like the impetus of my commissioning spree of bassoon ensemble pieces at this moment. But I played it for the first time live instead of with pre-recorded parts at my album release, and Joey performed in the ensemble of 6 bassoonists. And I think it was that experience that led you to program the piece, which is really gnarly, the solo program. I still remember the day we took a walk together and first talked about collaborating on a piece. It was October of 2019, and International Contemporary Ensemble was at peak performances in Montclair State University, performing with the iconic Martha Graham dance troupe, doing Copeland's Appalachian Spring and a new piece by Augusta Reed Thomas. And Joey, you had come out for the concert, and we took a walk. It was freezing, like already snowing. And we took a walk, and I said, hey, I want to commission a piece from you. What do you think?
I said
and
yes.
At that point, I said yes. And at that point, it was really a solo piece. I hadn't begun thinking about my bassoon ensemble commissioning project, and I was really just interested in working with Joey one-on-one on a solo piece, and have their unique voice in the solo bassoon repertoire.
I'm just so happy with how it shaped out. I mean, I told you when you sent the recording, I was like, that is not what I thought it would sound like, but I love it. So, and that's the first time I think in any of the pieces I've written in the last 2-3 years that's happened. You know, a lot of them I had really clear vision, and if it didn't sound exactly like that, I've been not strict, but like, maybe do this. But with this, it was great, and it just made so much sense because I had such an idea, and we talked about putting electronics or pre-recorded track in it. But then I started EDMR therapy, which is like pretty intense trauma therapy. And it's really cool because it's just figuring out literally where the trauma is in the body. Mm-hmm. And you start with a very peaceful place or your safe place, and then they bring you back to a traumatic event. And you see where all of the peace was, and you see where it left, and where there's now throbbing or inflammation and all of these things. So my happy place throughout my whole life is the beach. I made sure I went to one of those smaller festivals every summer that was on a beach, because I knew it would be free and it'd be great. So yeah, I just love it. And also being from Houston, going to the beach all the time. So when I went to the beach recently, before that, I had a session and she was like, what are you looking forward to? Like, what is your safe place now? And since I was going with my cousins, I was like, oh, drinking a margarita on the beach and laughing, and specifically like sitting on the not lawn chair, but beach chair with my legs kind of crossed and just like Mai Tai, you know, and I could physically feel what I wanted out of that emotionally. Mm-hmm. So when you recorded the piece, that's what I felt. You know, it was this like these distant, peaceful voices, and what some people, I hope they don't, might consider like a little rough or anything with the spit and everything. But to me, it's like this comfort of just layers and layers that you can just jump into. And it also kind of sounds like the ocean if you really get into it. So this piece was very, very fun. And like, I really like how I structured the score of just trying to make it all make sense. And then in the end, we changed that too. So, you know, it's been a really fun collaboration, you know, the big C word. So yeah.
It has been a fun collaboration, and I really enjoyed working on, so there is a backing track that I made to go under what we recorded at the space. And there's actually 11 tracks, which is wild. And I played around with different mic placements. So it really sound and different ways to mic the bassoon, of which there are infinite because sound comes out everywhere. And so I really tried to get something that would feel spacious. And I really like your word, like thinking of the ocean, of waves, because there's so much complexity and so much density, but it's really abstract. You're not aware of all 11 parts when you're listening to that track. It's a wash of this really comforting kind of blanket of sound that sets up this bed for what comes on top in this live way.